This cover is mid. It's totally mid. Welcome to another in the cover series. It's Zed, back with you again. I hesitate to call this a bad cover song. I got like a good cover song series. I got an all time cover series that's over on the channel that has my name on it. And I haven't imported those videos over to this channel. And I might end up reposting them to this channel just to repost them. But I'm talking today about a cover that's, as I say in the intro, it's kind of mid. And what I mean by that is that it's not a good cover, it's not a bad cover. It's a cover that did exactly what I expected it to do, but it was educational in a way that I didn't expect it to be. And so let me kind of begin from the beginning. When I was listening to Ann Wilson's cover of Missionary Man on her new album Fierce Bliss, which I talked about going over a few videos ago, I'm listening to it and I'm like, it's not bad. It's Ann Wilson doing what Ann Wilson does, which is she has a huge vocal and she always makes every song she's on sound amazing. Nothing new there. I totally expected it. It got recorded in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, so it has a definite rock sound to it. Okay, great. In an era where a lot of people like to say, to quote the Lenny Kravitz song, rock and roll is dead, it's kind of a nice departure. It's kind of something that's good to hear. And then I realized that there was something missing from the song. There's something that I didn't feel like was different or off, or something wasn't right. So I went back and listened to the original by the Eurythmics. Annie Lennox being Annie Lennox, huge vocal. The Eurythmics version is the Eurythmics version. They are they're kind of a world music band, so they're doing a lot of experimentation, but it's just synthesizer and rhythm guitar, big drums, which are the backbone of that song, and a really, really low, if almost non-existent, bass line. But where I was startled, I can't say startled's the wrong word. There's a harmonica solo in the original version. Like, who else is doing that except John Popper? But it's because you work with what you got. Because Dave Stewart is not a guitar god. He's a producer who plays some instruments. So he's not Steve Vai or Joe Satriani. It's not Eddie Van Halen doing the guitar solo for Billie Jean and getting paid no money for it. It's just a harmonica player playing harmonica as the solo on that song. And it's great. It totally fits that era. It is what it is. It's a classic song. So I come to Ann Wilson's cover, listening to it today, 2022, and I'm struck by a couple of things. And I've track listed a little bit of the record. It definitely sounds very 80s. So it sounds like the era that she's from. She records it in kind of that old school rock and roll way, which is great. But there's this huge guitar solo in the middle of Missionary Man, which if you knew the original, you're not expecting it. And then something dawned on me that is a real perspective situation. That, because I'm thinking about music and I'm listening to a lot of music, and I'm very interested in the history of music. I was struck by the guitar solo. So The reason I'm struck by it is because there's a man that kind of revolutionized music in a way that I don't know that he was meaning to do it. I don't know that if you were to ask him today, did he see his style changing music in general the way it has? I don't think he would have expected it. And that man's name is Peter Buck, the guitar player from REM. Peter Buck, in his own way, single-handedly changed music because he inadvertently got rid of the guitar solo. Now let's be a little honest. The guitar solo was kind of going the way of the dodo bird before the rise of REM and before Document became this huge record. Rock music in a lot of different forms was beginning to wane because it was beginning to change. The 80s hair band thing was happening during the kind of rise of college radio and the rise of REM. And so the guitar solo was dominant because it had been dominant since the end of the 60s. And then when grunge came in the 90s, the guitar solo kind of changed because there was less of it. But what ended up happening was a lot more bands inadvertently got influenced by what I call the Peter Buck style, which is instead of having this huge dominant guitar solo, which takes, here's your song in the beginning, here's the bridge, and there's this solo which kind of meanders and goes along this way, and it works its way back to the song. And that's great for jam bands. That's great for like Dave Matthews and Fish and Grateful Dead. That's great for the rock bands that are coming back. And it's even great in some ways for industrial. And even maybe in some small situations great for country, but it doesn't work in other contexts. And so what you find with a lot of modern adult rock bands or alternative bands now, that they kind of follow the Peter Buck style, where here's the song, here's a guitar part that's kind of the bridge to the rest of the song, and the guitar part doesn't take you on this journey. It just adds to the song in a certain way, and it moves the song along. Now, there's a reason I'm doing the hand gestures. I'm going to explain that in a second. Well, let me explain it now. I wanted to come up with a visual cue for myself to explain, so I can visually see how a guitar solo works. It sounds dumb, but the reason I wanted to do it that way is that I wanted to have a visual representation during the commentary about the size of songs, because in general I think that modern songs got shorter under the Peter Buck style than the guitar solo, the average style you hear when you listen to a rock song. Also, in Ann Wilson's cover, the guitar is ever present, which helps. It helps differentiate it from the original. And it just goes back to that old school way that rock songs used to sound. Rock songs now don't sound that way. They just sound like, okay, just a little tiny bridge and you just move on and the song is over. And the song is over in some ways before it ever really even began. In that way, I think the Ann Wilson cover, because it's a super throwback, is great. It does something new with the song, which is what you want a cover song to do. But the reason I say it's a mid is really less to do about the song being good or not, and more about my expectation for it. In the lead up to the record, some of the press that was done on the record, and even my reporting on the record, I was expecting it to be like this grand departure, and it was in a way, but it wasn't that the song necessarily sounded 100. To go back to an example I used in a conversation I had earlier today, it wasn't like Taylor Swift covering September, where that if I didn't have a history or a connection to the song, I wouldn't have known what the song was, or that it wasn't her song. It wasn't that kind of thing. It was that Ann Wilson took that song and reverted it to a rock song which is a way to update it and bring it to new audiences, which I think is great. On a record that aspires to be a rock record in the style that she's always known, which automatically makes it good. But it's unexpected because in today's landscape, you're just not getting that. That's what I got on the end on this episode of the cover series that covers Missionary Man, the Ann Wilson cover. I'm gonna link both songs in the description box for this song. If there are other songs I should probably cover, let me know. We'll talk about it on this channel. All right. Happy Sunday. Later.